Thank you so much. This is truly a thrill and an honor, and I'm just so happy to be winning an award with Kathy Calvin, who is a climate rock star by any definition of the word. So thank you for all you do, Kathy. And to the Earth Day team, Kathleen, Susan, Dennis, and all of the other members of Earth Day Network, this is a fantastic gala. You've outdone yourselves, and I'm so thankful for the award that you've given me tonight. I would also just like to thank, a special thanks really to Senator Bennett, because you know, it's living in the Bay Area, it's not that hard to be pro-climate. In fact, it's hard not to be. But in Colorado has such leadership, but it's more nuanced, it's more complicated, and yet everything you do, I mean, you're really an Earth Day champion every single day of the year, and we appreciate it, and your leadership is making a difference. So thank you for being here tonight. And then finally, my thanks. I want to thank my friends from National Geographic Society that are here with me tonight, the UN Foundation, and the Hawthorne Club, which is a club for leading women in energy. Thank you all for joining me tonight. And a special thanks to my husband, Phil, who made the trek here from California. Thank you. Thank you for all of you for all that you do. I think that if anyone almost 50 years ago had told someone that in 2018, 2 women would be given awards tonight, and one of them was a member of the National Venture Capital Association, I think there would have been some blank stares and some skepticism. First of all, what we call the MVCA, the association, it wasn't even started until 3 years after Earth Day in 1973. And second of all, the venture capital field stayed fairly focused on tech and on Sand Hill Road for much of its early years, Sand Hill Road in California, where all the firms began. And it was pretty much 100% white men for quite some time. In fact, the field is still, sadly, just 6% women. The good news is that imbalance is changing in a very dramatic way, and the field is increasingly extending its reach to fund companies that address our planet's health and our own future here on Earth, going beyond just the tech roots of its inception. So that's one reason why this award is so important. It sends a signal to the millions of people around the world that celebrate Earth Day that the world's innovators and entrepreneurs are right there with you, forming companies that can help get us out of the trouble we're in, creating quality jobs for generations to come, and establishing once and for all that a 21st century economy that addresses 21st century needs, not 20th century needs, is in reach. So people often ask me, with all of the choices out there, how do you decide what to invest in? Certainly, when looking at an embryonic company with really no history and not much of a balance sheet, it's really all about the people, the skill and the passion that we think they're going to bring to the development of their company. And so Elon Musk, who won this award several years ago and for whom it was a real honor as well, back in 2006 when we invested in Tesla, Elon exuded all of these qualities. And of course, he has helped to bring along a whole new generation of entrepreneurs who think big and infuse climate activism into their business models. That's what's so different about today. It's incredibly inspiring to see this. We just need more of it, better, cheaper, faster. And that's really what our goal is at DBL. So to answer that question that people ask, we have a frame around our investment process to make sure we're covering all the bases. And it's a 3-pronged approach, so we call it our climate trifecta. So first, we follow the carbon. So many of our 20th century business models were wrapped around a high carbon profile, and we need to change that. Second, as impact investors, we want to fix something that's broken, and we want to do that with intentionality. We don't just want it to happen kind of by coincidence. Third, when we look at a sector and the iconic names in that sector are mostly 100 years old or more, it's definitely time to invest. So in practice, that brings our investment approach, of course, to industries like automobiles and energy, but we're going so far beyond that, to agriculture, to emerging markets like Africa, where over 1 billion people still don't even have access to electricity, to conservation, and even to space. So I don't have time to go through all of those categories tonight. I'm just going to give you 2 examples. So let's take agriculture and apply our trifecta. So agriculture produces 30% of all carbon emissions on this planet. It's broken in many different ways. Farmers are having trouble making a living with the commodity prices going the way they are. And we have almost 10 billion people to feed on this planet over the next few decades. Furthermore, there is increasingly here in our country a divide between the heartland and the coast, and that's tearing at the unity and the strength of our nation. Finally, looking at that iconic names criterion, the ag names are names like Monsanto, Cargill, John Deere. Those names are not even from the 20th century. They're from the late 19th century. So one way we can invest in this and to help improve the situation is to bring big data to the farm. A company we've invested in, it's called Farmers Business Network, FBN for short, is doing just that while fiercely advocating for farmers. FBN pulls data from farmers all over the country and now in Canada, and we have about almost 25 million acres worth of data now after just a few years in. And what we do then is we crunch the data and we reveal insights to farmers that help them make better decisions and allow them to have more control over what their farming prescriptions are. So to take one small example, seed pricing is very opaque for farmers. We crunched all the seed price data, and we discovered, for example, that in Iowa, a farmer that lived north of Ames bought the same seeds as a farmer south of Ames, and yet paid 30% more for the exact same product. And no one knew that because there's no way for transparency to be in the system until now. So what we did with that information is we bought some seeds and we started selling them at the lowest price and got rid of that middleman and allowed a farmer to make more money based on the lowered price. We do that on every step of the way in the farming process. And what this does has an environmental benefit as well as a social benefit. It gives farmers data to allow them to make that transition to more sustainable growing practices, because a lot of times it's too risky. You don't have the data you need to figure that out. And in the end, it gives farmers more control over their destiny and the ability to allow their children to prosper on the farm. So the second example is space. So on our trifecta score, regarding following the carbon, first you have to find the carbon, and that's where space tools come in handy. Space is not just about going to Mars, although that could be called the ultimate climate adaptation strategy. It's what next-gen space tools are going to allow us to do is to use information we get from space to understand our planet Earth much better. And what that does is help us fix something that's broken. In this case, there's so much damage to our planet that is currently invisible or not able to be documented, and space tools can create that authentic documentation trail. Finally, looking at the iconic names criterion, Boeing, Rockwell, Lockheed and the like. These are giants, and they're very highly valued giants from an investor point of view. But again, they were all founded in the first part of the 20th century. So it's time to shake things up a little bit. So at DBL, we've developed a space cluster of investments. So far, we've invested in SpaceX, of course, Planet, a company called Planet, which makes nano satellites, and Mapbox, which is a crowdsourced mapping platform. These companies use new technology and business model approaches to democratize access to information about Earth from space and allow everyone, from citizen scientists to Sierra Club members to whomever, to understand our Earth through the tools that they provide. Just one quick example. Planet, which makes these satellites, nanosatellites, worked with a group in southern Peru, an environmental group that was watching a nature preserve, and they now have enough satellites to image the Earth every day, very cheaply. And so they just took all these pictures of a meandering river in the south part of Peru. And over just a period of a couple of weeks, that river changed from being kind of muddy-colored and skinny and meandering to being sort of a bright gold color and much wider, sort of overflowing its banks. The company Planet was able to work with the environmental group, and it turned out that what had happened is that an illegal gold mining operation had started a few miles away from that river, and the waste from that illegal activity was poisoning and destroying the pristine nature of that preserve. And so that, of course, is very valuable data to start a campaign to stop these practices. So what I envision is that in the not too distant future, school children will use this kind of data, be it from a farm or from space. They'll use it for their Earth Day projects. They will, many of them, in the process of using this information and seeing its power, they'll get hooked on a career dedicated to solving our climate problems as they create tomorrow's iconic companies. That's the power of combining innovation and Earth Day, and I'm so honored to play a role in making this happen. Thank you so much for this award. Thank you.